A deeply divided nation that stands at the crossroads. More than 65 million voters are expected to deliver their verdict today with hopes of a better tomorrow.
On a single ballot, each Filipino voter will make a decision. Who will take over from Rodrigo Duterte? Who will be the next vice president? And who will take up 12 Senate seats, 300 lower house seats, and some 18,000 local positions?
Amid our many challenges, from a deadly pandemic to lost jobs and closed schools, the list goes on.
Hirap din po kami, wala kaming kita.
Sana tuloy-tuloy na yung na hindi na magkaroon ng COVID, di ba? At sana magkaroon na tayo ng kapayapaan.
Today, Filipinos will decide.
This is a CNN Philippines special coverage. The Filipino Votes, Election Day 2022. Good morning and welcome to this CNN Philippines special, The Filipino Votes. I'm Rico Hizon.
And I'm Ria Tanwat Cotrillo. Throughout the day, we'll give you news and information you need to know as Filipino voters.
I'm Paulo Abrera, and all day here on CNN Philippines, we'll keep a close watch on the progress of today's vote, and we'll bring you the results as we get them.
CNN Philippines is your most trusted destination for live, up-to-the-minute, and in-depth coverage of today's historic vote. We have our correspondents, stringers, and affiliate reporters stationed in key parts of the country, including candidates' bailiwicks and canvassing headquarters. AC Nichols is at the PPCRV Command Center at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. David Santos is in Davao City to monitor the Duterte family. Lois Calderon is in Ilocos Norte for Bongbong Marcos. Angelo Mario is in Camarines Sur for Leni Robredo. Paulo Barcelon is in Manila for Isko Moreno. George Cahiles is in Cavite for Ping Lacson. Cian Arcangel is in Sarangani for Manny Pacquiao. And Chrissy de Matulak is in Rizal for Leody de Guzman.
We are also closely monitoring some of the heated battles for local elective posts. We have Stanley Gahete in Manila. Tristan Nodalo is in Quezon City. Rex Remito is in Mandaluyong. Amor Santos is in Pasig. Paige Javier is in Laguna. And Caroline Bonkin is in Cebu. Our stringers and RPN affiliate reporters are also spread across different parts of the country. We'll talk to them to get the situation on the ground.
Presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos will cast his vote in Ilocos Norte. He's expected to return immediately to his campaign headquarters to monitor the transmission of election results. Rex Remito joins us now live from Bongbong Marcos's headquarters in Mandaluyong City. So it's quite early in the morning right there in Mandaluyong City at Marcos's headquarters. Tell us, Rex, what is taking place right now where you are?
Well, the Marcos campaign has been careful about divulging details on how his day will look like. What we know so far is that he will vote at Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School in Pasig City this morning. The school has been named after his late grandfather, who was a congressman in 1925 to 1931. Teachers are arriving with all the election paraphernalia and equipment that people will need for voting. All the chairs have been set up, as well as isolation rooms for those who will be detected with COVID symptoms. The police have also inspected the area, especially the precinct where Marcos will vote. There's also a designated spot outside the school where the media can take pictures. Journalists are not allowed to go inside. After Marcos votes, he will fly back to Metro Manila right away. We have yet to know if he will stay at his headquarters in Mandaluyong City, which is still closed until now, or at his home in Makati City. We will also find out if they will grant interviews tonight or right after the voting hours end. His spokesperson, Attorney Vic Rodriguez, says they cannot reveal all the details for security reasons. We all know he's leading the surveys and could be the next president in a matter of days, if not hours from now. We're also here at Pedro P. Cruz Elementary School in Mandaluyong City to see how teachers are preparing. Some are cleaning the premises while others are readying the equipment. So far, we have yet to see voters lining up to cast their ballots. Back to you, Rico.
So, Rex, you've been covering the Marcos Duterte campaign over the past several months. What is the current mood right now among his supporters?
It's mostly celebratory. In fact, their last meeting, the Avance in Parañaque City, was like some sort of a victory party where his supporters has been chanting, "Panalo ka na," repeatedly, or that Marcos has already won, and even in their attire, it can be seen that it's like a reflection that it's like they would like to embody that they're already winning with their Barong Tagalog suits and whatnot. And according to the Marcos campaign, at the end of the day, they're always running scared. It's not assured until the last ballot has been counted. Back to you.
Rex Remigio there reporting to us live from Mandaluyong at the Marcos headquarters. We're also monitoring developments in our nation's capital, where presidential candidate Isko Moreno is casting his vote. The city of Manila gave Moreno 50% of the votes in 2019. Will they also give him a majority vote now that he is running as the country's president? Paulo Barcelon joins us now live from Manila. Paulo, what time will the mayor be casting his vote?
Well, good morning, Rico. We've been told by his campaign staffers that he's expected to show up here at the Magat Salamat Elementary School by 11 o'clock in the morning. We will check if he will be on time. It might push a little later. It might go a little earlier. We will have to check on that. But right now, Rico, it is the proverbial calm before the expected rush of voters here at the Magat Salamat Elementary School. This is one of 78 polling centers here in the nation's capital. We've been here since early morning, and the list of voters has already been posted in some of the precincts here. There are no lines of voters yet, at least from our vantage point right now, but there are already poll watchers waiting to take up their posts inside the different polling precincts. There is a police presence here. The police and the military are already here to help secure the perimeter of this school, as well as ballots and election paraphernalia are already ready. One election official told us that as of the vote counting machines have been delivered as early as May 3, and they had finished their final testing and sealing by May 4. Now, it's important to note, Rico, that this particular school, Magat Salamat, houses also the precincts coming from another school, which is the Manuel L. Quezon High School, which is currently under construction. Overall, over 31,000 voters are expected to troop to 49 precincts here when voting starts at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, as to the ground rules here, 10 people will be seated per precinct to observe social distancing, and voters who are waiting in line will be asked to queue at the different holding areas. Now, emergency accessible polling places as well as isolation polling places have already been set up, and school officials, Rico, are urging voters to go home after voting to avoid overcrowding in this particular polling place. Back to you, Rico.
So, Paulo, let's now take a look at the local race in Manila. How is it shaping up?
Well, you know, Rico, the local race here in Manila to replace Mayor Moreno has been dominated by scions of different Manila political families. For one, you have two female candidates vying to break the so-called glass ceiling and become the first female mayor of the nation's capital. So we're talking about Hani Lacuna, the daughter of former Vice Mayor Danny Lacuna, who is also the longtime party mate of Isko Moreno, and there's also the daughter of the late Mayor and former Senator Alfredo Lim, Christy Lim also vying to become the next local chief executive. Now there's also Alex Lopez and Amado Bagaching, themselves sons of former mayors as well. And Rico, there are 6 congressional districts and over 800 barangays in Manila, because this is the second most vote-rich city in the country with over 1.1 million voters. Rico.
Thank you so much for that update. Live from Manila, Paulo Barcelon.
Now let's check on the security situation for this year's national polls. Joining us now, Philippine National Police Directorate for Operations Director, Police Major General Valeriano De Leon. Good morning, General. Thank you for joining us. Sir, could you start off by telling us how is the PNP securing voters on this election day?
Yes, we are providing security to everyone, our facilities, our paraphernalia, including the voters going to the photo scenes. And there are some isolated incidents in some parts of the country.
Yes, sir. We will ask you about that in just a moment. But first, could you tell us how many policemen are deployed now across the country for Election Day?
Yeah, we have deployed more than 150,000 personnel all over the country. And in time, some will be performing at the administrative duties, and they are having some switching a shift in their duty.
Sir, have you received any reports that could be a cause for concern today and in the coming days?
We have been receiving reports that the police is ready to respond correspondingly. We have conducted several contingency planning and including exercise.
Sir, now we know that certain areas have been identified as election hotspots. Tell us about those areas and how tight is the security there?
Yes, we have 4 in Lanao del Sur, 6 in Maguindanao, and all towns and cities in Misamis Occidental, including that of Pilar. And so we now have all 28 areas under Comelec control, and we have rationalized our deployment, and some other police forces nearby have to augment our forces in places where there are likely to happen. So we are conducting preventive measures in order not to escalate this situation.
General, can you tell us what happened in Davao City? A group reportedly blocked the movement of vote counting machines to polling centers. Any update on this, sir?
Yes, incidentally, as reported by our Comelec in a meeting with the Comelec chair and Commissioner Garcia, this was already contained by our police force. There was a little delay in the conduct of testing and sealing, but it's okay now.
All right, that has been resolved, but there were also some incidents of election-related violence over the past few days. There was the shooting incident between security personnel of political rivals and a shootout between supporters of local candidates. Both of those incidents occurred in Nueva Ecija. How did the police respond to this, and where are the suspects or those involved now?
Yes,
All right, it seems we are having connection problems there with General De Leon. As you can see, he is in flight on his way to Cotabato. We will try to get him again later in the program if that is possible. But he did report there are 150,000 policemen deployed all over the country, and there are 28 areas now under Comelec control. Those are, of course, the election hotspots. Now, all day here on CNN Philippines, we'll keep a close watch on the progress of today's vote, and we'll bring you the results as we get them. So keep it right here.
Welcome back. You're watching this CNN Philippines special presentation, The Filipino Votes, Election Day 2022. Almost all of Davao City constituents voted for Mayor Sara Duterte in 2016 and 2019. But will she get the same kind of support now that she is running as the country's vice president? Our senior correspondent David Santos is joining us from Davao City as President Rodrigo Duterte, Mayor Sara, and the rest of their family are expected to cast their votes. David, what is taking place this morning?
Well, Rico, when you mention Davao City, of course, the name Duterte automatically crops up. No? These two almost synonymous and sometimes said in the same breath. Now, we're here at the Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School where outgoing President Rodrigo Duterte, Davao City's favorite son, will be casting his vote later today. This city with almost 1 million voters could produce yet another national political leader, Sara Duterte Carpio, the president's daughter, who is vying for the nation's second highest position. Well, incidentally, she will also be voting in the same school, same polling precinct even, but we understand the father and daughter will be voting separately. Now, this school has more than 7,000 registered voters. We are sure that the Dutertes, despite their influence and political clout, will not be treated any differently. They will just be like regular voters. They will be casting their votes, going through the same rules and procedures. No special treatment for the Dutertes, or so we're told, except for the regular security measures accorded to the first family, meaning they will also have to mingle with other voters as well when they cast their ballots. Now, we witnessed the last-minute preparations of different schools throughout here in Davao City on Sunday. Everything seems to be all set despite some concerns on how the actual voting will be done today, particularly the implementation of the different health safety protocols. The weather could dampen the election mood here in Davao City. It has been raining overnight, and according to weather forecasts, the city could expect more rains throughout the day. But on the upside, the rains could also provide a welcome reprieve from the summer heat that we've been feeling here these past few days. Now, we're looking forward to an exciting election day, weather permitting, here in Davao City, and we'll bring to you the latest developments from this part of Mindanao throughout our coverage. Back to you guys.
David, what does President Duterte plan to do when he steps down?
There's no mention about it. In fact, when he spoke, if you recall, he attended the meeting de avance of his son, Baste Duterte, who's running for mayor. He attended the meeting de avance earlier this week. There were a lot of speculations and even questions, the audience throwing questions on him. And he also threw back the question to the audience on what should he do after he steps down from Malacanang. He even made a joke about running for barangay chairman. But I guess there's no clear plan yet. At least not coming from the president, but definitely we can expect the Duterte patriarch playing a key role, at least here in Davao City, considering that his daughter, Sara, is running for vice president, and then his other children, Baste, who's running for mayor, and Pulong, running for Congress, will be key political leaders in this city. So we can expect the Duterte patriarch to remain very influential, at least in this part of Mindanao, but still up to this day, and no specific plans. We have not heard from him specifically what he will be doing after he steps down from Malacanang. Rico.
Thank you so much for that update. Live from Davao City, CNN Philippines correspondent David Santos. A tough-talking mayor from Mindanao took the nation by surprise 6 years ago. From profanity-filled speeches to his unapologetic stance about killing criminals, Mr. Duterte was not your typical presidential bet. Yet over 16 million Filipinos desperate for change ushered him to Malacanang. As a controversial leader gets ready to bow out, our Nacy Nichols wraps up the legacy he leaves behind.
Oh, yeah!
He was known as the Punisher. The crime-buster mayor of Davao City resonated with voters. Rodrigo Duterte promised to rid the streets of criminals, even if it meant ending lives.
Hitler massacred 3 million Jews. Now, there is 3 million drug addicts. There are. I'd be happy to slaughter them.
Mr. Duterte made sure the men and women in uniform were paid well and their capabilities upgraded. For they are the frontliners in his unrelenting war on drugs. Official data show over 300,000 people have been arrested and around 6,000 were killed during anti-drug operations since 2016. But human rights groups and the international community have in the process raised alarm over alleged extrajudicial killings and other abuses. While critics point out the bloody exercise failed to stop the drug trade, public sentiment for the president remained high.
Majority of Filipinos prefer security rather than freedom. People really regard drug addicts as bad people. So therefore, if they are killed, or people that have anything to do with drugs, no? So even drug pushers, drug traffickers, so even if they are killed, that's not something that would bother them.
The president also vowed to rid government of corruption, but eventually admitted facing a blank wall.
Do not expect me to entirely clean as a pristine, clean bureaucracy. That is impossible.
In the meantime, Mr. Duterte's centerpiece Build, Build, Build program appeared to be the other end of his strong-arm approach to improve the lives of Filipinos. Infrastructure spending reached a record high of over 1 trillion pesos in 2021. But as ambitious as the plan was, only 18 out of the 119 projects were expected to be completed by June. These do not include big-ticket railways and subways or inter-island bridges in the Visayas and Mindanao.
Some of them might actually benefit the middle class more than lower income groups, no?
Past his midterm, Mr. Duterte faced the greatest challenge to his leadership, the COVID-19 pandemic. The nation looked to the government for help and direction as strict lockdowns led to millions of job losses and survival, both from the virus and from economic losses. The president initially underestimated the impact of COVID-19.
It will die a natural death. Ito, matatapos din ito.
Mr. Duterte declared a state of national emergency. Local governments imposed curfew hours, and Filipinos were eventually ordered to stay home and be safe from the virus. But this also meant millions of households facing hunger as breadwinners had no means to earn under lockdown orders. Faced as well with a healthcare system that was on the brink of collapse at one point, the government was forced to spend billions of pesos in cash assistance or ayuda, some handed out late, and the amount wasn't enough.
It's difficult if the commander-in-chief is not really on top of the situation, and then you rely on military solutions to a health emergency.
To its credit, the administration was able to vaccinate more than 2/3 of the target population, or over 67 million people, against COVID-19. Vaccination rates have picked up despite widespread hesitancy at the onset.
Mr. Duterte may be remembered as the most colorful leader for his controversial policies, off-the-cuff statements, cussing in public, and preferring to be called mayor instead of president. But what really separates him from his predecessors, the iron-fisted former mayor from Mindanao, will cap off his term as the country's most popular president. AC Nichols, CNN Philippines. Cebu is the most vote-rich province with over 3 million registered voters. Its choices for president and vice president in 2016 also won the national elections that year. Who will win this crucial battleground? Our correspondent Caroline Bonkin now joins us live from Cebu. Maayong buntag, Caroline, as they like to say there. What do you have for us?
Maayong buntag, Ria. As of now, the triage here in Guadalupe Elementary School in Cebu City is already open. Health workers are checking voters, each voters for COVID-19 symptoms so they can vote as soon as the polls begin. There are already a lot of voters here. Others dropped by yesterday and early this morning to check their voting precincts, like Adam, who was here at 3 a.m. to check his polling place since this is his first time to vote here. He's casting his vote as soon as the polls open.
And it's my first time here in this school, so just so that I don't get in the way of the other people trying to find where they're going to vote, I took the time to come here early.
Okay.
It's more prudent that way. You're ready, Tara. You can come early, go home early as well.
With nearly 33,000 registered voters, this is one of the biggest polling precincts here. Cebu is the most vote-rich province with over 3 million voters. Cebu City alone has over 700,000 registered voters, which is actually more than the total registered voters in other provinces. So the voting results here could probably swing the election outcome for some national candidates. Way back in 2016 vice presidential race, Robredo won big against Marcos here in Cebu. This time, this election, the parties of two Cebu gubernatorial candidates, Gwen Garcia and Ace Durano, as well as many local officials, endorsed the Marcos-Duterte tandem. But just a few days ago, over 250 priests, nuns, and religious leaders endorsed the Lenny Kiko tandem. So the question now is, will these endorsements translate to actual votes? We have yet to find out as the day progresses. Back to you.
Caroline, I'm sure you were able to talk to some of the Cebuanos, the locals there. What issues are they keeping in mind when choosing a candidate?
Yes, Ria, we were able to talk to a number of Cebu residents, and among the issues they raised are corruption, poverty, unemployment, and the need for technological advancement. Ria.
All right, thank you very much. That was our Caroline Bonkin reporting to us live from Cebu.
Moving on to comments sent by netizens, we asked you, ano ang gusto mong maging prioridad ng susunod na administrasyon? Let's begin now with some comments here from Facebook. Joel Carlo Tumang says he wants accountability and transparency. Eto raw muna bago maayos ang lahat ng aspeto ng gobyerno at ng bansa. He adds, kapag wala ng kurakot, aayos ang lahat. Moving on to more comments here from John Paul Santos Corpus. In order, he says, agriculture, health, education, and lastly, national defense. Over at Twitter, let's take a look at what we have over here. Sebastian Back says, stabilize muna. He wants the government to focus on a COVID-19 exit plan, and this includes economy recovery, generating more jobs, and price control. He also wants an internal cleansing of the executive branch para raw yung next budget natin ay mapunta sa tamang paglagyan. Taking a look at what we have here this time, I believe from Twitter, Lee Calagwan says, please also include disaster risk reduction. And over here on Instagram, user St. Martin says, transparency and affordable healthcare should be included in the next administration's priorities. He also wants a serious fight against corruption. And rounding this off here, we have this from Brits_12, and he says, foreign policy. All right, up next, candidates made their final pitches to voters over the weekend. We take a look at this and some other highlights. And election watchdog Contra Daya joins us later to talk about preparations for this year's elections. When Filipinos vote, we are here to bring you the very latest. Stay with us on CNN Philippines.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching a CNN Philippines special coverage, the Filipino Votes, Election Day 2022.
Throughout the day, we'll give you news and information you need to know as Filipino voters.
All day, we'll keep a close watch on the progress of today's vote, and we'll bring you the results as we get them, so please stay tuned.
Ahead of today's polls, candidates made a final pitch to voters in their meeting de avance over the weekend. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte ended their triple meeting de avance in Parañaque. Organizers put the crowd estimate at over 1 million people. Marcos urged his supporters to vote early and guard their votes. Vice President Leni Robredo and Senator Kiko Pangilinan held their biggest rally in Makati. Organizers say over 780,000 were in attendance. Robredo thanked her supporters and asked everyone to have faith amid worries and anxieties. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno returned to Tondo, Manila, where he grew up as a scavenger before becoming an actor and politician. Manila Police District put the crowd estimate at over 50,000. In his over an hour-long speech, Moreno slammed his two strongest rivals, Marcos and Robredo. Senators Ping Lacson and Tito Soto held their final rally in Cavite, the hometown and bailiwick of Lacson. Even though he failed to get the support of provincial leaders there, Lacson says he wanted to show his kababayans that he values their support. The former police chief turned senator also said that their votes for him will not go to waste. No colors dominated the crowds in Senator Manny Pacquiao's meeting de avance in General Santos City. Speaking in Visayan, Pacquiao promised to stop corruption and uplift the lives of Filipinos. The face of the opposition, presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo will cast her vote in Camarines Sur. Majority of Leni Robredo's kababayans in the province voted for her as Vice President in 2016. Our senior correspondent Anjo Alimario is at Karangkang Elementary School in Magarao, the polling center of Robredo. Anjo, how are the preparations there, and do we know what time we should expect VP Robredo to vote?
Well, Ria, it's all systems go here at Karangkang Elementary School, where presidential candidate Vice President Leni Robredo will vote. It's that classroom behind me, clustered precinct number 64B, and we've been told that she will wait for her daughters first to vote in Naga City. That's a 20-minute drive from here. They're scheduled to be there at 6:30 in the morning, and they will then accompany her here in Magarao. This is it. Her fate will be decided today by millions of Filipinos who will elect the country's new set of leaders. Now, since yesterday, we've seen security personnel securing the area, and obviously security here is getting tighter by the minute. And unlike in 2016, where media can freely roam around the school now, and we can come near, and even inside the classroom, there are only specific areas where media are allowed to stay and monitor, and a single camera will document and feed what's happening inside. It's a small classroom, and we're still finding out how many voters can be accommodated at a given time. Of course, there's still the threat of COVID-19. We've also covered Robredo back in 2016 during the VP race, and she had to wait for 2 hours because the vote counting machine at her precinct malfunctioned. So it had to be replaced, and hopefully everything will go smoothly today. Now, on the eve of the elections, Robredo and her daughters attended a mass before visiting the tomb of her husband, late Interior Secretary Jesse Robredo. It's been a long, exhausting 90-day campaign journey for Robredo and running mate Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Robredo described her daily schedule as punishing as they tried to reach as many places as possible in a given day. And she, in fact, visited almost 70 provinces in 3 months, making her one of the busiest presidential bets. And after all the massive rallies, which drew record-breaking crowds, the People's Movement, which Robredo described, sustained her campaign. It all comes down to this moment. Will the last woman or the man standing be a woman? Ria?
Anjo, what do we know of VP Robredo's plans after she votes? Does she return to Manila or will she stay there?
Well, the info that we have is that she'll definitely spend the night here in Camarines Sur, particularly in their house in Magarao, which is near the school. There will be a command center at Avenue Hotel or that will serve as the media center for the rest of the day, and we can stay there and monitor developments. And we're told that her spokesperson, Attorney Barry Gutierrez, will be arriving in the afternoon to accommodate questions from the media. Now, a separate command center, monitoring center, will also be set up in Metro Manila, in Pasig City, where her legal team will be. So definitely it will be a long day, long wait for Robredo as she tries to be the first Bicolana president. Back to you.
Angelo, how would you describe the mood there now in Camarines Sur? The VP ended her campaign on a very hopeful, festive, jubilant note. Is that something that translates there now?
Well, so far here at the school where she will be voting, it's still very organized. We've been seeing teachers here who will serve as, of course, election board personnel, securing and organizing the classrooms where the voters will be, of course, casting their ballot. But so far, we haven't seen a line of voters, early voters who are, of course, eager to, of course, make their decision made today. But so far, again, we're still waiting for the final schedule of Robredo. When and what specific time will she be here to cast her vote, Ria?
Thanks a lot. That was our senior correspondent, Angelo Alimario, reporting to us live from Camarines Sur. Presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao is in Sarangani to cast his vote. The province gave him majority of votes when he ran for senator in 2016. CN Arcangel now reports to us live from the Kiamba Central Elementary School in Sarangani, where teachers are all set to welcome voters when voting starts at 6 a.m. Good morning, CN. What can you tell us? All right, it seems we are having trouble there with Zian's audio. We will try to get her back to report on exactly what is happening there in Sarangani, where Senator Manny Pacquiao will cast his vote later today. All right, let's try that once again with Zian Arcangel. Zian, can you hear me?
Yes, Ria, you're loud and clear. You're coming in loud and clear.
Please, go ahead.
I'm standing outside the classroom at Kiamba Central Elementary School, where Senator Manny Pacquiao is expected to cast his vote later today. It's a long day ahead for teachers as they start their election duties. They clocked in as early as 3 a.m. to pick up ballots and other election materials at the Municipal Hall. From the Municipal Hall, they traveled back to the school where they are now checking the election materials and filling out some paperwork. There's no word yet from Pacquiao's camp as to what time he will be voting. What we know is that he said on the last day of the campaign that he intends to cast his ballot in the morning. Kiamba Central Elementary School is 2 hours away from Pacquiao's residence in General Santos City. So far, we haven't seen any people lined up waiting to vote. Policemen are stationed around the school's premises to guard it. Ria?
All right, Zian, we know that Senator Pacquiao has several family members also running for office. Do we know if they're voting in the same precinct?
Sorry, Ria, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Senator Pacquiao has several family members running for office also. Do we know if they will be casting their vote in the same precinct as Senator Pacquiao?
So far, Ria, only Senator Pacquiao is expected to cast his ballot in this school, while his wife Jinky will be voting in another school, also here in Sarangani. Ria?
All right, thanks for that, Zia and Arcangel. They're reporting to us live from Sarangani.
Our next guest is from the election watchdog, Contradaya. What are the concerns a few minutes before polling precincts open? Joining us now is Contradaya convener Malu Turalde Harabe. Thank you so much for joining us, Malu. Well, it's about 18 minutes to go before polling precincts open. How confident are you that the 2022 elections will be a success on both the national and local levels?
First, let me greet you, Rico, and our televiewers. Good morning. Okay, the question is, I think the answer would be, it is contingent on several factors. And I would like to say that for me to say it is successful, it has to be clean and honest, and the outcomes are credible. So that for me would, constitute, or for me to have an indication that it is indeed successful.
And Malu, tell us, how different is this elections from the past? What are the driving forces that will play a huge part in this electoral process?
Okay, thank you for the question, Pico. Well, this is actually the fifth fully automated elections, since it started in 2010. But this is also the first automated elections in a pandemic year, in time of a pandemic. So I guess that's one difference that we can compare it from the previous. And I would like to say that this is also the election cycle when we experience the most the proliferation of disinformation. So I think that's factors that would play a role, and would somehow influence the outcome of the elections, in this 2022
So
elections.
Malu, tell us, why did we see a lot of fake news and disinformation in this electoral campaign compared to the previous elections in 2019 and 2016? Why did we see more of it? Why did it proliferate during this period?
Okay, let's first, I guess somebody or groups would benefit from this information. And also others are also disadvantaged. So I think this information is used primarily to, how do you say that, entice voters in an election context, by spreading these lies, spreading untruths. So I think that's, for the most part, is being done deliberately. There's intent, There's an intent to spread false news. There's an intent to spread lies and untruths.
What about as we speak right now, before we start going to the precincts and vote for our candidates? Are we already seeing a lot of false news, untruths, and lies taking place on how our kababayans should vote today?
Okay, let me, just about yesterday, we got this false news, this fake news that the Makabayan Bloc, and the party list groups under Makabayan Bloc and Nery Colmenares have been disqualified by the COMELEC. So it came out yesterday. So that's, and according to COMELEC, yesterday, they also said that it is fake news. But as soon as it came out, there were already, based on our monitoring, there were already flyers, being distributed. So you see, this is happening, and this happened, a day before election day. So that's how. And that's just one example, actually.
Yes,
so
and we may see many of
guess,
that taking place during the course of election day, particularly on social media. Share with us, Malu, if our kababayans would see any kind of electoral violation taking place from 6 in the morning until 7 in the evening today in terms of campaigning, vote buying, what should they do?
Okay. What should they do? Please, if you see any of these irregularities and fraudulent activities, you can send to us, send to Contra Daya these complaints, these observations that you have. So whether it's vote buying, red tagging, machine errors, illegal campaigning, disinformation, harassment, flying voters, disenfranchisement, and the use of government resources, please inform us about all these incidents. So you can send to us these complaints at our Facebook and Twitter account and include a hashtag Contradaya Vote Report PH.
All right. Do you have any hotline where people can call if they can't access or if they can't send any messages via your social media pages?
Okay, we have a hotline, so let me just read it. Our hotline is 09 833-2296 and 945-824-3600.
And of course, Malu,
So
no?
those are our hotlines.
Thank you so much for that
Yes, Rico.
information. No, if they see any kind of electoral violations taking place during the day, and of course, the polls are not only taking place on the national and local levels. A lot of Filipinos, millions of them, are also voting overseas. Is your group Contra Daya also quite satisfied with the process and the outcome of how it's being conducted in the various embassies and consulates all over the world?
Okay, thank you for that question, Rico. In fact, when we are the committee in charge at the House of Representatives called us up to give our observation. So we already did. In fact, we made a manifestation on that, and we said that according to reports from our chapters in countries abroad, for example, we have Contra Daya in the USA, Canada, and Europe. So they're saying we got a lot of reports that there was delay, and it didn't start right away. The paraphernalia did not come right away, so it took them a while to set up. So there were, they seemed unprepared. So we already made this manifestation to the House Committee and said the COMELEC, we said that COMELEC should thoroughly assess, conduct a thorough assessment of the overseas absentee voting.
Mm-hmm.
So we made that manifestation.
And Malu, before we let you go, there are more than 65 million Filipinos who are trooping to polling centers all day today. Some of them are no longer registered in the respective precincts because they found out that they haven't voted for 2 consecutive elections, and there are also some voters who are having second thoughts. They're undecided about who they will vote for. What is your message for them, for these kababayans who are registered voters who have second thoughts about going to their respective precincts to vote?
Okay. Our dear kababayans, my dear kababayans, please, consider this 2022 elections as a matter of survival. Now, we have seen the worst during the past 2 years with this pandemic. Our social protection and healthcare systems, the inadequacies of these have been exposed. So it's very important that we choose leaders who will be able to address these concerns. Another thing is that, our economy is, really ravaged. And even before the pandemic happened, we already had that problem already. So it's aggravated. What else, A lot of things are at stake. A lot of things are at stake in this 2022 elections, The protection of human rights, our sovereignty, the leadership, the quality of leadership in the next 6 years, and how do we address the new normal? So these are important, these are what is at stake, in the 2022 election. So I hope that our kababayans, mga kapwa ko Pilipino, please go out and vote. At kailangan po, pagpunta ninyo sa ating mga polling places, bumoto tayo, magbantay tayo ng ating pagboto, at kung kinakailangan sa harap ng malawakang cheating, at fraud, tayo po ay kumilos. Maraming salamat. Thank you, Rico.
Thank you so much for joining us for this CNN Philippines special presentation on election 2022. The Filipino Votes Contra Daya convener Malu Turalde Jarabe. And you can count on CNN Philippines for live, in-depth coverage of this year's general elections. Stay with us for news you can use, news you can trust. We'll be right back after this short break.
watching a CNN Philippines special presentation, The Filipino Votes Election Day 2022. Now, the heat is on this election day, quite literally. Pag-asa says scorching temperatures make up today's forecast due to the easterlies. It is expected to bring hot and humid air affecting the whole country. And Pag-asa sees Metro Manila to reach a high of 36 degrees Celsius. Baguio City will rise to 25 degrees Celsius. Cebu will reach 32 degrees Celsius, and Davao City will range from 25 to 32 degrees Celsius. Now, there are some rains as well later on in the day. The easterlies may bring rain showers and thunderstorms in the Mindanao area. We heard that it was raining overnight in Davao City. And the same scenario may be experienced in Metro Manila and the rest of the country as well. Pag-asa advises the public, especially those who will go out to vote, to shield themselves from the heat of the sun and bring lots of water to avoid heat stroke.
Now let's check on the situation in Western Visayas in the province of Aklan, where there are over 409,000 registered voters. Aklan-based correspondent Carla Doromal joins us live on the phone for an update. Carla, what can you tell us from there?
Ria, voting precincts are not yet open, but here in Calibo, the town proper of Aklan province, some voters have arrived early near Calibo Elementary School to cast their votes for today's national and local elections. Schools here received the voting counting machine Saturday, and these were inspected and tested by public school teachers that same day. A total of 640 precincts will open for more than 400,000 registered voters in the whole province. 209,315 voters registered in the 1st district and 200,623 voters in the 2nd district of Aklan. Calibo town logged the most registered voters with 54,660, followed by the municipality of Malay, including Boracay, with 42,135 voters. Comelec Aklan Information Officer Christine Gerardo says the 17 towns are ready for the polls in terms of security. Aklan Police Provincial Office deployed personnel in different towns to ensure the safety of the voting public and election officials in their respective precincts and enforce minimum health protocols. Gerardo added that manpower needed to secure credible elections, including the Electoral Board, DEP and supervising officials, and the support staff are all ready for duty. Meanwhile, Comelec Aklan reminded the public to follow the minimum health standards and proceed to isolation facilities provided in each school once symptoms of COVID-19 are observed among voters. Reporting for CNN Philippines, Carla Doromal, Aklan.
Thank you very much. Again, that was Aklan-based correspondent Carla Doromal reporting to us live.
Quezon City is the country's most vote-rich city with over 1.4 million registered voters. There are 9 candidates for the city's top post, but it is a tough fight between incumbent Mayor Joy Belmonte and Congressman Mike Defensor. Our Tristan Nodalo followed the campaign trail of the 2 leading candidates. He joins us now live from Quezon City. So what's taking place right now in Quezon City, Tristan?
Rico, before I go there, I want to bring you to the situation here at the Commonwealth Elementary School in Quezon City. It's one of the biggest voting centers here in the city. And as you can see beside me, there's a long lines of voters. Some of them came here at around 3 to 4 a.m. There's a brief commotion or confusion for the voters because some of them, or the original line, have been broken, and then yung iba, ang reklamo nila, yung pumupunta na dun sa harap kahit hindi pa talaga sila nakapila. Kaya medyo nagkakagulo ngayon dito in terms of voters, and voters will start to cast their vote at 6 a.m. Over the course of the local campaign period, we have seen how the 2 leading candidates fought it out to win the hearts of over 1 million voters in the vote-rich city. Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte highlighted her COVID-19 response initiatives in the last 3 years and the tax collection that funded a number of city projects. Her closest rival, Mike Defensor, hit Belmonte for her slow response. He also vowed to use the city's fund properly should he win the post. Defensor is running under Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte's Uniteam, while Belmonte is running under a local party called Serbisyo sa Bayan. Belmonte is expected to cast her vote at Christ the King Voting Center, while the Defensor will be in La Vista. Back to you, Rico.
Thank you so much for that update. Live from Quezon City, Tristan Nodalo. Well, polling precincts are set to open in just a few moments. And throughout the day, we'll be giving you news and information you need to know as Filipinos cast their votes. You're watching a CNN Philippines special coverage, the Filipino Votes Election Day 2022. Please stay tuned.
The district or provincial board of canvassers will then canvass the votes for president, vice president, senators, members of the House of Representatives, and elective provincial officials. Once complete, the board will produce the certificate of canvass votes. The certificate of canvass will then be transmitted to the COMELEC for senators and party list representatives, and to the Congress for the president and vice president. The certificates of canvass will be used as the basis for proclaiming winning candidates.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this CNN Philippines special, the Filipino Votes, Election Day 2022. I'm Rico Hizon, and at this hour, polling precincts are opening their doors to our kababayans ready to cast their votes. CNN Philippines is your most trusted destination for live, up-to-the-minute and in-depth coverage of today's historic vote. We have our correspondents, stringers, and affiliate reporters stationed in key parts of the country, including candidates' bailiwicks and canvassing headquarters, to give you news you can use. AC Nichols is at the PPCRV Command Center at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. David Santos is in Davao City to monitor the Duterte family. Lois Calderon is in Ilocos Norte for Bongbong Marcos. Angelo Palmones is in Camarines Sur for Leni Robredo. Paulo Barcelon is in Manila for Isko Moreno. George Cahiles is in Cavite for Ping Lacson. Cian Arcangel is in Sarangani for Manny Pacquiao. And Chrissy de Matulac is in Rizal for Leody de Guzman. We are closely monitoring some of the heated battles for local elective posts. We have Stanley Gahete in Manila. Tristan Nodalo is in Quezon City. Rex Remitio is in Mandaluyong. Amor Santos is in Pasig. Paige Javier is in Laguna. And Caroline Bonquin is in Cebu. Our stringers and RPN affiliate reporters are also spread across the different parts of the nation. We'll be speaking to them to get the situation on the ground. Poll watchdogs are all set to monitor the conduct of this election. And one of them is also giving us a quick count of the results. Our AC Nichols joins us now live from the PPCRV Command Center in Manila. AC, there are currently a lot of tables that I see around you. What is likely to take place in the early hours of this event that is taking place today?
Well, Rico, in the next few days, we will be monitoring the work of Watchdog, Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, or PPCRV. The group is the citizens' arm of the Commission on Elections that will carry out a parallel, unofficial count of votes. And what they do is really important as it helps to verify the electronically transmitted results. Now, at this time, there's not a lot going on here yet. In fact, the PPCRV Command Center will not officially open until around 8 this morning. But everything is set here. They have a big screen in front where they will flash or display their quick count results. Those numbers will be based on data transmitted from vote counting machines to the COMELEC's transparency server. The PPCRV is a national parish-based lay movement. It has played a major role in monitoring Philippine elections since the 90s. Now, aside from their parallel quick count and their work here at the command center, the PPCRV also has thousands of volunteers on the ground monitoring the election process and manning voters' assistance desks as well. Rico?
AC, apart from the quick count, the PPCRV will also encode results from election returns as well. Can you tell us more about that?
That's right, Rico. The parallel quick count shows us the results or the electronically transmitted results from vote counting machines to COMELEC's server. But the PPCRV will also carry out a manual audit of results reflected on election returns. That is why you see computers here set up at the command center. They have around 200 computers which volunteers will use to manually encode the data on election returns. As COMELEC's partner, the PPCRV has access to the 4th copy of election returns, and those will be brought here later when voting ends later tonight. Now, again, this is another way of checking for discrepancies by comparing the digitally transmitted figures and the data reflected on election returns, which are printed before results are electronically transmitted to COMELEC servers. And if there was no error or if there was no manipulation, then those numbers should be the same. Back to you, Rico.
AC Nichols there reporting to us live from the PPCRV Command Center in Manila. Their operations will begin at 8 this morning.
Now it's all systems go for the Commission on Elections as polling precincts open for this year's polls. And with us now is COMELEC Acting Spokesperson Attorney John Rex Laudianco. Good morning, Attorney. Thank you so much for being here. Sir, bago ang lahat, bukas May 10 pa raw po ang lalabas ang desisyon ng COMELEC sa disqualification cases laban kay Presidential Aspirant Bongbong Marcos. Can you tell us po kung bakit tumagal ng ganito at ano pong mangyayari kung if ever madidisqualify si Marcos?
As explained by, good morning, Ms. Rhea, good morning to the watchers of CNN. As explained by Chairman Pangarungan in the press briefing yesterday, holiday po kasi nung natanggap niya yung decision, ano? And as you know, all the commissioners and the chairman had been very in-depth in their analysis of the case. And that's why they had decided to promulgate it tomorrow. Aside from the fact that there are 3 other cases that the chairman and the commission and bank intends to consolidate with the promulgation po. Insofar as to the effects of the voting, we have been saying to the public, to our voters, please continue to vote. This is a legal process which will proceed on its own under laws, under rules, and we all know that there are remedies available to any of the parties which will be affected by this case, separate and independent from the proceedings today. And even though the outcome of the case will be ultimately decided by the body, and I know they will be filing motions for reconsideration, what we assure the public is that you should go out and vote, and we will ensure that your vote will be counted and canvassed properly.
Alright, sir. Kamusta naman po kayo dyan sa COMELEC? Gaano po kayo kahanda para sa araw na ito? In fact, we know the COMELEC earlier said that failure of elections is not an option.
As always, you're correct, ma'am. Failure is really not an option. Failure of election is not an option. That's why we're here inspecting our polling centers. Right now, I'm coming into you live from Andres Bonifacio Elementary School, from Barangay 7, Cluster 12, with Cluster Precincts 31. As we have shown, the voting has started. The chairman is with me. In fact, we witnessed the initialization of the machines. We already have voters here who will be voting po. So this is the situation throughout the country. Voting has started at 6 a.m. and we are here to ensure that this will go on until 7 p.m. tonight.
All right, sir, do all the polling precincts have enough vote counting machines and enough people to help all the voters today?
Yes, we had already sent all the 106,174 vote counting machines, and all of these precincts have duly constituted electoral boards. They also have their support staff, and we also have the DepEd supervising officers. So lahat po ng presinto sa buong bansa are manned by trained electoral boards, and we have the DCMs and ballots at hand.
So far, I know it is very early in the day, attorney, but have you received any complaints so far?
Complaints will be duly received by us. Alam naman po namin meron darating. But what's important here, what we've been stressing, from the longest time, what we have been stressing is that the COMELEC has prepared all the contingencies that we will address and remedy the situations. Lagi pong may contingency plan, laging merong contingency actions sa COMELEC, which are readily and immediately actionable po.
All right, yes, as we know, there are hitches that occur every election day. So remind us, please, again, ano po ang dapat gawin kung hindi mahanap ng ating mga kababayan ang kanilang pangalan sa voters list?
Okay po. Sa una po sa lahat, para makasiguro po kayo na nandun mahanap nyo mas sapat na oras, please maaga po kayong lumabas sa inyong tahanan. Please go to your polling centers. There are voters assistance desks here in places, in all the places, in all the polling places. Pwede po kayong lumapit sa kanila, tutulungan po nila kung sakali pong wala ang pangalan. You could also proceed to the precinct as indicated po. Alam niyo yung precinct niya. Kung sakaling wala pa rin po talaga ang pangalan ninyo, bukas po ang mga tanggapan ng Commission on Elections. Pwede po kayong pumunta doon. May tao po kami lagi dyan. Bagamat yung aming election officers at yung election assistant, most likely umiikot po sila to assist. Pero meron pong tao na mag-a-assist sa inyo sa aming mga office of the election officers.
All right, now we know the vote counting machines are such a key part of the process today. Were you able to get the test results of the final checking of all VCMs?
Yes. In fact, as of 5 a.m., 99.95% na po ang readiness ng ating vote counting machines. Meron lang pong 2 na walang test ballots, but right now, alam namin, nagpa-function na sila kasi pinahintulutan na po sila ng komisyon na gumamit dun sa official ballots na gamitin nilang test ballots or FTS ballots. The remaining 47 na ina-expect namin po na from the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, ina-expect na po namin na magre-report sila na nagpa-function na. Gaya po nung nabanggit ko kanina doon sa press briefing, may isa po na naghang na BCM doon sa isang bayan sa Cotabato. But naghang lang naman po ito, it's a small and a relatively minor technical issue which is being addressed by the National Tech Support Center. So alam naman po namin, baka in a few hours, maaari nga po ngayon, gumagana na po siya.
Right, attorney, meron pa rin pong mga report tungkol sa flying voters. Ano po ang gagawin kung may ibang tao na bumoto gamit ang kanilang pangalan?
Okay. Kung meron pong bumoto na gamit ang inyong pangalan, kailangan po ito ay parating ninyo doon sa electoral boards kung saan nakalista kayo. Magpakita po kayo ng sapat na identification at sabihin nyo kayo po yan. Kung nakaboto man po, sisiguraduhin po namin na kung may bumoto man doon, makakaboto po kayo. Higit sa lahat, kayo po ay pumunta at mag-execute ng complaint sa amin, sa Law Department. or sa pinakamalapit po na pulisya para po magawa ng report ito. Iimbestigahan po natin at hahanapin po natin yung flying voter na yan. At sisiguraduhin po natin pag natagpuan na natin siya, we will prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law.
All right, Attorney, my colleague Rico Hizon has a question for you. Rico, go ahead, please.
Attorney, magandang umaga po sa inyo. No? Thank you so much for joining us for this CNN special coverage. Marami po ang nag-check ng kanilang mga presinto sa COMELEC precinct verifier. They've been registered, no? Matagal na po, even in the 2000, 2013, and 2016 elections. Pero nung nag-check po sila sa kanilang precinct verifier, wala po sila. They're not registered. Anong po nangyari dito? Bakit po kaya natanggal sila sa precinct verifier? At hindi sila pwedeng bumoto po ngayon?
There are several factors, no? Yes, sir, Sir Rico. There are several factors. Una po, kung hindi mo nakita sa voter verifier po, no, maaaring hindi naman automatically deactivated. First, baka po mali yung pagkaka-type po, pagkaka-info dun sa ng pangalan nila kasi sensitive po ito, it's case sensitive, it's character sensitive. So kung naglagay po kayo ng period dun sa mga junior, kailangan pag-input yung junior. Kung gumamit po ng enye, kailangan po gamitin yung special character na enye. Yung mga kadalasan po, yung may Maria, either binuo or na-abbreviate po na MA period, kailangan eksakto. Yung po yung karamihan na naging complaints natin sa voter verifier. Pero most of these complaints po, nung pumunta po sila sa offices of the election officer, nakita naman po na active po yung registration nila. Now, on the other hand, dun sa mga deactivated po talaga, na-confirm na po by going to the offices of the election officers, ito po ay may dahilan. Nasa batas po kasi kapag kayo po ay hindi nakaboto ng 2 beses nun sa 2 regular elections sa magkasunod, kailangan pong i-deactivate kayo ng COMELEC. Batas po ang nagtatakda po nito.
Okay, so kung hindi po sila bumoto noong 2018 barangay elections and 2019 elections, deactivated na sila po automatically? Attorney? All right. Rhea, back to you.
All right. All right, thanks, Rico. I think we lost the line there, but we would like to thank COMELEC acting spokesperson, Attorney John Rex Laudianco. As polling precincts open, Christy Dimatulak takes a look at the preparations of teachers serving as the Board of Election Inspectors.
From arranging the chairs to posting guidelines, teachers are getting ready for today's big day in Apolonio Elementary School in Quezon City. The school will serve as one of the polling places for the elections. Many teachers like Ruel Telanmape will serve as Board of Election Inspector.
Talagang kinakabahan, hindi lang dahil eleksyon, pero dahil nga sa dami ng tao na boboto, of course, hindi kasi na-anticipate ng COMELEC na open na ang mga tao, so most probably mas maraming tao ang boboto ngayon.
Teachers are advising voters to pack a lot of patience, especially if they do not immediately see their names in the voters list.
Kapag election, ang kinakatakot namin yung bigla yung pagdating ng mga tao. Tapos ang incident na naranasan namin yung kapag wala yung pangalan nila doon sa voters list, yung pwede silang magwala, kami yung aawayin, wala naman kaming alam doon.
The teachers also call on poll watchers to work peacefully.
Sa mga poll watchers, sa mga incidents po na naranasan namin, usually hindi sila oriented na yung dapat lang nilang gampanan, yung dapat lang nilang gawin, lumalampas sila doon like sila yung magulo sa precincts, sila yung maingay, tapos marami silang reklamo na nagkukos ng delay sa process ng elections.
In a classroom, only 15 voters are allowed inside. Polling precincts are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. But teachers expect that they will be working straight into the night up until the next day to put everything in order. It is in the hands of these teachers to make sure that ballots are secured and arrive safely at the Commission on Elections. Christy Dimatulak, CNN Philippines.
As Filipinos vote, we are here to bring you the very latest. The situation in Bacolod and Bukidnon come after the break. Stay with us on CNN Philippines.
Thank you for staying with us for this CNN Philippines special presentation, The Filipino Votes, Election Day 2022. Bacolod City has a heated mayoralty race with over 327,000 registered voters. Bacolod-based correspondent Butch Gaspar Jr. joins us now on the line. Butch, kamusta ang sitwasyon dyan sa Bacolod City?
Yes, Rico, so 5:30 a.m. voters are starting to arrive here in Mariano Medal Elementary School in Barangay Pahanukoy, Bacolod City. Sa oras na 5:45 kanina, nanatiling sarado ang gate ng school at kapansin-pansin naman na marami pang nakakabit na mga posters ng mga kandidato sa mismong pader ng school. Harap naman itong Mariano Medal Elementary School ay tagtadin ng campaign posters ng mga national and local candidates. Wala pang masyadong build up ng traffic malapit sa polling places. At as of 5:55 kanina, officially nagbukas ang gate ng school at nagsimula ng pumasok yung mga botante dito sa Mariano Medalla Elementary School. And itong school na to mayroong 40 precincts at may 9 clustered precincts. And may mahigit 6,000 na mga botante ang magbubuto ngayong araw na to, Rico. And ngayon, dito sa Bacolod, ina-expect natin at saka sa Negros Occidental na mahigit 2 milyon ang pupunta ng mga polling precincts to cast their votes, Rico. So yung situation dito, mayroong nagsisecure na police dito sa harap mismo ng gate at wala nang parking area, no? Ubos na. Halos lahat dito, yung may mga personnel naman na in charge na nagsisecure ng mga temperature ng tao na pumapasok, nilalagyan ng alcohol yung mga kamay para masiguro na walang magkalusot, no, na possible suspected COVID-19 na positive. Kasi dito sa Bacolod, merong reserve na isang isolation room. If ever mag-positive yung isang botante or suspected positive, ay doon siya magbubuto, no? So yun ang situation dito ngayon. Kalalabas lang ng truck na naghatid ng pagkain ng mga volunteer teachers dito at saka yung naghatid ng mga ballots na sasakyan na nasa loob pa rin ng compound. So parang wala namang problema. As usual, yung mga tao dito naghahanap ng mga pangalan nila sa mga nakadikit doon sa may bandang parang tickler o bulletin board dito, Rico. Back to you.
Maraming salamat, Butch Gaspar Jr., our Bacolod-based correspondent.
Authorities are on alert in Bukidnon following a shooting that involved presidential candidate Calyodi de Guzman, which police say was not election-related. The province has 4 congressional districts, 2 cities, and 20 municipalities. Bukidnon-based correspondent Melchor Velez now joins us live on the phone. Good morning, Melchor. What do you have for us?
Yeah, good morning, Buya. Dito po ngayon tayo sa Bacolod. That ng ating national Ako pa lang ay dito na yung mga tao naghahanap ng kanilang mga pangalan sa kanilang presinto at uukan ngayon dito Bukidnon ngayon sa gabi pa. Despite of this mga teachers, mga Bataan integrated schools dito sa Malaysia and early as 4:30 in the morning at saka yung mga voters natin as usual naghahanap ng kanilang mga pangalan para sa kanilang presento at may temperature check. So, dyan sa labas sa gate o mga entrance gate dito sa school. Nakausap natin si Batangan Deep Ed, Supervisor Official Nandi Ratran at sabi niya na already prepared talaga sila to 120% para sa sa itong halalan na ito. At ang PPCRD na mga volunteers naman ay andito nag-assist para sa mga volunteers. Nakita din natin ang ilang mga PNP, DFP, at ang mga augmenting force para masiguro ang peacekeeping na ginagawa ngayon sa lugar ko. At mula dito sa kinatuyuan natin, back to you.
All right, maraming salamat. That was our Bukidnon-based correspondent Melchor Velez there reporting live. The Commission on Elections is confident that it has covered all the bases from technical to security concerns. The official canvassing venue also ready for action since Sunday. Our Melissa Lopez takes us there in this report.
The COMELEC is moving its offices in Intramuros to the PICC Forum tent in Pasig City for the next few days. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, the 7-member COMELEC and bank would be serving as the National Board of Canvassers. This area will receive all electronic and physical copies of certificates of canvass from local boards once voting ends at 7 p.m. That stage will witness the proclamation of winning senators and party list groups in a week's time, while Congress will count the votes and declare winners of the presidential and vice presidential race. COMELEC field personnel rushed to complete final tests of vote counting machines or VCMs on the eve of voting day. This should have been done Saturday, but some precincts in Davao City started late after teachers serving as poll workers were reportedly being forced out. It was unsuccessful. The poll body also justifies why it decided to reshuffle field employees in Mindanao just days away from May 9.
Hindi lang naman Maguindanao yung areas na may reshuffle, kung hindi in such other places in order to ensure the impartiality of our field personnel.
Over 800 machines needed repairs as of Sunday morning. Commissioners say they have more than enough time to get these replaced before polls open at 6 a.m. COMELEC will use helicopters of the Army and Police to get the last-minute machine replacements to the precincts. For areas damaged by recent typhoons, makeshift voting centers have been built while generators will supply power. Security forces are on standby to secure the polls. The military is on full alert with additional troops deployed to so-called hotspots like Central Mindanao.
For those who will malign and those who wanted to disrupt the electoral process, the full force of the law will be going against you.
COMELEC officials also dismiss a barrage of fake news that seek to undermine the integrity of the polls. Among them, claims that voting results are rigged and are ready as early as now.
Wala pong katotohanan na may result na. Kinakailangan bumoto muna kayo para po may result bukas ng gabi.
Another reminder, a nationwide liquor ban is in place until the midnight of May 10. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
A check on the weather now. Pag-asa says expect hot and humid weather conditions throughout the day. Now, there are some rain showers due to the easterlies, and we've got more updates on how the skies are shaping up across Asia from the CNN World Weather Center in Atlanta.
Well, hello, CNN Philippines. Happy Election Day. CNN meteorologist Tom Sater to do what we always do. We look at weather for you and for your civic obligation. Things look overall pretty good. We do have a better cluster of organized rainfall down in the southern sections, but we're going to begin up north, and we'll come back and visit your Election Day weather for you and, of course, for tomorrow. To the north we go. We've got a couple of storm systems. Another weak front moving through Beijing. We've got an area of low pressure, which will bring some heavier rainfall into Kyushu. That's western parts of Japan. Overall, high pressure in control of the Korean Peninsula. There's a little bit of light rain. Temperatures have been going up and down, up and around Beijing and northeast China, but the heavy rainfall, again, back into the picture after having a couple of days of dry days for southern provinces of China. But look, Pyongyang, temperatures starting to warm up in that sunshine. Nice in Osaka, although 19 degrees comes with a trade-off in cloudy skies, but Beijing looking good. Now, when we look at the forecast for Tokyo, they've got rain almost every day. Maybe some drizzle on Tuesday for them with the cloudy skies, but their temperature slowly below average, or slightly, I should say. Haiku, cloudy skies. Now, this is where the rainfall is. You go further to the north and you get into a drier pattern. But overall, when we look at Southeast Asia, we're starting to see that rain again become more localized in parts of Myanmar and toward Thailand as well. It's widely scattered, but we do have some heavier rain off toward Bangladesh. More on that in a moment. Notice Phnom Penh, southern sections. You get a little bit drier as you head toward the east from Hanoi down southward, but for 3-day forecast, you'll see where it's focused to be heavier, and of course that's in China. Now, I do want to take you over toward India because we've got our first tropical cyclone here. It looks large and menacing on a satellite imagery, but the temperatures of the waters are just not warm enough for further development, so it'll skirt the coast and bring some needed rainfall, some areas that have been, of course, overwhelmed with the pre-monsoon heat. 36, a warm election day for you. There will be some scattered showers, and again, mainly that's down to the south. So when we look at today's and tomorrow's rainfall, snowfall, again, localized to the south, but overall, a dry pattern. Enjoy your day today and your civic obligation. I'll see you again tomorrow. Back to you.
And that was meteorologist Tom Sater from the CNN World Weather Center in Atlanta. CNN Philippines is your most trusted destination for live, up-to-the-minute, in-depth coverage of today's historic vote. We'll bring you the latest situation in other parts of the country, so stay with us.
Welcome back. You're watching a CNN Philippines special coverage, the Filipino Votes 2022 Election Day.
Throughout the day, we'll give you news and information you need to know as Filipino voters.
All day, we'll keep a close watch on the progress of today's vote, and we'll bring you the results as we get them, so please stay tuned.
Now, polls have opened at 6 a.m., but many of our kababayans flocked to their respective precincts way before that. We can expect more voters to come in as the day goes by and before voting ends at 7 tonight. Presidential candidate Ping Lacson is expected to cast his vote in his home province of Cavite. George Cahiles now joins us live from there. George, what is happening over there where you are?
Good morning, Ria. We are here at Bayan Luma 1 Elementary School in Imus, Cavite, where presidential candidate Senator Ping Lacson is expected to vote along with more than 10,000 Imuseños. Lacson will be arriving here anytime soon, we were informed, and everything is all set here. As the Board of Election Inspectors and the poll watchers were here early. The vote counting machines are already in place, and at exactly 6 in the morning, the polling centers opened. And as you see behind me are Imuseños who were up early, who lined up early to cast their votes. Now, having over 2.3 million voters, Cavite was frequently visited by presidential candidates during the campaign period. Lacson, for instance, visited different parts of the province. At least 4 times he held his proclamation rally and meeting the Avance here, being Lacson's home province. Lacson only got a few endorsements from politicians here. Among them is Imus City Mayor Manny Maliksi. Cavite Governor John Vic Remulla has endorsed presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos, and other political families like the Barzagas of Dasmariñas City, which has the most number of voters in the province, endorsed Vice President Leni Robredo. So the election results here will be very interesting. Back to you.
All right, George, you started talking about local politics. What can you tell us about the provincial candidates there? How tough and how tight is the competition?
Gloria, there is no strong opposition on the re-election of Cavite Governor John Vic Remulla, but he has at least 4 rivals. They are all independent candidates. While his running mate, Athena Tolentino, is battling against a single opponent, who is also an independent candidate. Back to you.
Thanks a lot for that. George Cajidas there reporting live from Cavite. The COMELEC and the National Police are closely monitoring 217 villages from northern Mindanao considered as areas of concern. 72 of these are placed under the red category or areas of grave concern. More than 600 policemen have also already been deployed to these areas. RPN DXKO Cagayan de Oro reporter Cheng Ordonez now joins us on the phone. Cheng.
Yes, that is correct. All 72 barangays under the red category are in Llano del Norte. In Misamis Occidental, 19 barangays are considered as areas of immediate concern. Brigadier General Benjamin Acorda, Police Director for Northern Mindanao, says the list was made as the basis for the deployment of security forces to the villages. Acorda says the military would augment the police in far-flung villages and thwart any attempt to disrupt the elections. Military troops deployed in Region 10 were sent off last May 4, along with other security forces from the Philippine National Police, Philippine Coast Guard, and teachers from DepEd 10 during simultaneous multi-agency send-off and turnover ceremonies at the Police Regional Office 10 headquarters. Meanwhile, COMELEC Regional Director Francisco Pobe says 90 villages in Bukidnon are considered areas of immediate concern. They account for a fifth of Bukidnon's 464 barangays. The police said they opted to list down barangays instead of municipalities where they fall under so that there would be no need to declare entire towns as hotspots. Last Thursday, a total of 601 police personnel were deployed in different cities and provinces in northern Mindanao during send-up ceremonies in Camp Vicente Alagar in Cagayan de Oro City. 347 police personnel, recent graduates of basic internal security operations, were also deployed to augment forces or as augmentation forces. Acorda says the deployed police personnel were provided with risk and threat assessments and recommendations on the peace and order situation in their assigned areas. In February this year, the Moro National Liberation Front and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front proposed the consolidation of high-risk vote areas in 6 towns in Llano del Norte during the election period. A joint report made by the MNLF and MILF identified 6 towns in Llano del Norte as areas where election violence may likely take place. Election-related violence marred the 2013 and 2019 elections in Llano del Norte. On April 25, 2013, a convoy of Nulungan Town Mayor Abdul Malik Manamparan was ambushed, killing 13 people. The mayor of Pantar, Muhammad Exchan Limbona, was killed in neighboring Iligan City on December 29, 2016. On April 3, 2019, several people were hurt when supporters of rival political families in Tawan-Tawan and Bangkola Umpa figured in shootouts. Then, there were the 2 explosions that rocked Llano del Norte on the eve of the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite in February of the same year. Reporting for CNN Philippines, Cheng Ordonez, RPN TV5 DXKO, Cagayan de Oro City.
That was RPN DXKO Cagayan de Oro reporter Cheng Ordonez there reporting. Now let's check on the situation in Negros Oriental, where there are over 932,000 registered voters. Dumaguete correspondent Roy Bustillo will give us an update live via phone. Roy, good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. Yes, a total of 1,471 precincts all over Negros Oriental are now ready for today's election. The vote counting machines and other election paraphernalia were deployed early without incident to polling centers in far-flung areas, arrived yesterday, May 8th. And the peace and order situation of Negros Oriental is normal as of now. The province was badly hit by Typhoon Odette last December, and most electrical towers and posts were down. According to provincial COMELEC officers, at least 5 precincts will be powered by generator sets. Meanwhile, personnel from the 302nd Infantry Brigade of the Philippine Army conducted leaflet drops in some parts of Negros Oriental yesterday, May 8th. These flyer drops, or what they call it, persuasion flight, used the latest air assets, Sikorsky 60 Black Hawk helicopters, particularly in areas of concern. In a statement written on the flyers, the Army is encouraging voters to stand up, come out and exercise their right to vote. And the flyers also enumerated basic guidelines on how to vote and encouraged the voters to call or report any untoward incidents using the hotline. Reporting for CNN Philippines, this is Roy August Bustillo, Dumaguete City.
Again, that was Dumaguete-based correspondent Roy Bustillo there reporting live.
Well, thousands of national and local positions are up for grabs. What's at stake in this year's elections, and how are Filipinos voting for the next leaders of our country? Joining us now live via Zoom is political analyst Aris Arugay from the University of the Philippines Political Science Department. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us, what is your overall assessment of these 2022 elections?
Rico, the 2022 elections really show that for Filipinos, elections are very important, very significant, and legitimizing events. Filipinos still accord a high importance on the role of elections as the most legitimate way of transferring power. But for this particular election campaign, we've seen that this election has been highly contentious and even highly polarizing, I would say, in recent electoral cycles that we've had. We see that there's indeed polarization among not only the electorate, but also the candidates. And it has also penetrated even the most basic of our social institutions that even include families and even households.
You say highly contentious, highly polarizing. Professor, in your view, what were the major driving forces during this electoral campaign? Was it the political ads? Was it the house-to-house campaigns? Was it the surveys, the sorties, the troll farms, the fake news and misinformation?
Rico, we thought that the traditional campaigning methods like on-the-ground sorties and rallies would be limited given the pandemic. But we actually were in favorable conditions given that our COVID situation did not really worsen during the campaign. We had our Omicron surge quite early before the official campaign period at the national level. But in terms of what seemed to be the most salient campaigning methods, we saw that ads on TV and radio didn't really matter much. I expect that even if politicians poured a lot of resources, I think a lot of the resources have been poured elsewhere. We saw this really double downing on what we call barnstorming, wherein candidates really go to very strategic places, whether they're vote rich or whether they're places that are considered their bailiwicks. But in 2016, we saw the beginnings of the role of social media in campaigning. We saw that full-fledged in this electoral cycle. Social media may have even replaced traditional or even mass media as a main mode of candidates reaching out to voters. And I think finally, there's a concentration of efforts for politicians nationally, those who are running for national positions, in making sure that they get the vote of what we call bellwether places, meaning places that are contested, but at the same time have the ability to deliver a lot of votes for them.
So, Professor, in your view, do you think that the survey results would be similar to the election results?
As a social scientist, I would always lean towards the science of surveys. I do think that surveys have been useful in previous electoral cycles. But what I want to say is that this particular electoral campaign cycle is quite different, and we've mentioned the differences as before. So I'm not really sure. We will have to see. I do hope there will be an exit poll, because that will be the ones that would really have the predictive power and is designed really to measure whether it corresponds to actual results. But I think in future electoral cycles, surveys will have to be juxtaposed, or at least surveys will have to coexist with possible other ways of measuring the electorate sentiment.
And Professor, were you surprised that none of the presidential and vice presidential candidates withdrew from the race, even though we saw that they had really very poor numbers in these surveys?
Partly, Rico, yes. I was a bit surprised, especially if these politicians would really take into consideration the stakes in the elections. But I think if we really rely on pre-electoral surveys, I do think that the electorate has already decided that this race is really a two-cornered fight between the top two polling candidates. So
you think, Professor, they did not pull out, they did not withdraw from the presidential and vice presidential race because they still want to remain relevant in the next political exercise in 2025? Because if they withdraw, then the electorate will think that they're losers. You know, they're quitters.
Yes, Rico, because no candidate for the presidency has ever withdrawn in the past. So therefore, it will be quite historic if a presidential candidate, a major presidential candidate, will withdraw. But I do think they have their own political calculations, and that may be part of it. But we all know before, Rico, that there have been candidates who filed their bids for the presidency, not really as competitive candidates, but to divide the vote. Because in our system, you only need a plurality, not a majority, in order to win.
So what do you think are the post-election scenarios that you see? Do you think that the Filipino people will unite under the winner for president and vice president?
Rico, as I've said earlier, this election is highly polarizing. So whoever wins will have to make sure that he or she governs the entire republic, and not just the voters who casted their votes in his or her favor. So I think that's the biggest challenge. The challenge is to govern the entire republic and not to govern simply the voters who gave you mandate. It will be quite difficult, Rico, because if this is really going to be a two-cornered fight, and the results will show that even if the candidate gets a majority, there will still be a sizable, considerable number of Filipinos who did not vote for the winning candidate.
Right.
So I think governance will be quite difficult, particularly if two camps are highly polarized and they're not really seeing each other as possible partners in the coming years.
Thank you so much for your insights, political analyst Aris Arugay from the University of the Philippines. And all day, right here on CNN Philippines, we'll be keeping a close watch on the progress of today's vote. And when we come back, we check how Filipinos in Singapore cast their votes in the past weeks. And for those just about to head out and cast their votes, we have last-minute reminders. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust.
Your vote is your voice. Make yourselves heard.
Another day, another adventure. We're going to talk about how to look and feel your best.
Ano nga ba mga bagay na dapat i-share at dapat hindi?
We're taking you to new destinations and eco-friendly tourist spots. Let's get moving.
Hashtag proud moment.
Ganda nun. Always rise up, and for sure, you will always get there.
What we put in our bodies is actually what keeps us going.
I am doing this because this is my passion.
You're watching a CNN Philippines special presentation, The Filipino Votes Election Day 2022. Now, before we move on, let's check on some comments sent in by netizens. We asked you, ano ang gusto mong maging prioridad ng susunod na administrasyon? Beginning here on Instagram, we've got I am Mina. She wants a safer place to live in, yung confident kang lumakad-lakad sa labas at hindi natatakot. She also wants better transportation and a better quality of life. Over here on Instagram as well, we've got Jove Benosa's answer, which is short and sweet. Mahinto na lang ang political dynasty. Over here as well on Twitter now, Mund echoes calls of so many workers increase the minimum wage of employees. Also here on Twitter, we've got Tao Katan says ang makaahon sa kahirapan at maging mulat sa pananamantala ng mga mapang-abusong politiko. On Facebook, we've got this one here from Thayan Ray, wishes for Filipinos to live like those in a first world country with dignity and class, proud and grateful to the government. And over here on Facebook as well, we've got Azraga's wish, which is kind of immediate, and I think everybody will agree with this. He wants a fair and orderly election and respect for the majority of votes.
Thank you so much, Paolo, for those social media comments from our netizens watching us right now. Voting started last month for Filipinos working and residing overseas. Let's check in now on the situation, excuse me, in Singapore. And joining us live via Zoom is Jun Rigunan, host and senior correspondent of Rated J, a non-profit, non-political volunteer group which aims to provide news and overseas for Filipino-based in Singapore. Jun, give us the situation right now for our kababayans in Singapore.
Good morning, Rico. Well, the Filipinos here in Singapore are very excited to end this 2022 national elections or overseas voting here in Singapore. In fact, we have been covering this news from day one, which was on April 10, 2022, and it will be ending tonight at around 7 in the evening here in Singapore. Around, I think it's about, it has already surpassed the number of, or the voters turnout as compared to 2019 and 2016 elections, as what one of the officials here in Singapore has mentioned to me during my interview with her last week. So everyone is so excited in general.
So, June, share with us what's the overall sentiment of our kababayans there in Singapore. We just spoke with a political analyst, and he said the situation, particularly here in the country, is very polarizing. Is it the same as well among our Filipino kababayans in Singapore?
Well, I would say it's also polarizing. However, I don't see so much division of people here in terms of like people who are saying that their friends have already befriended some of them. This is not the situation that we are here right now. Everyone are still helping each other. In fact, yesterday I was covering for a news story which is about those poll watchers here. The poll watchers here are even friends with different parties. I mean, the poll watchers from different parties are even friends with each other. So I would say that the Filipinos here, more or less in general, are still very friendly, I would say. Polarizing, but not to the extent of really befriending some of them. In fact, they're really still very helpful to each other and still very happy with each other here.
So, June, what are our Filipino kababayans there in Singapore looking for in the next president?
I won't be able to answer that in general, but based on some of those that I have interviewed, most of them are really looking for someone who would really bring back the nation to where it used to be. I would say that most of them really also wants to have a president who really has concrete plans for the overseas Filipinos, especially now that we have that Department of Migrant Workers. So in general, people here really wants someone who would be able to give direction, especially for the overseas Filipinos.
What about the issues that our Filipino kababayans face there in Singapore? What are the main problems that they encounter that need immediate government help?
in general, the Filipinos more or less here are very much protected because of the government of Singapore really protects even our migrant domestic workers. I would say that what this Filipinos really wants are concrete plans, especially for those issues that have been highlighted last year or the past few years, such as those PhilHealth issues. Right now, we have this Pag-ibig concern and that OEC. So more or less, these are the current issues that the country or that the Filipinos here in Singapore are facing when it comes to the national issues. But in terms of the elections itself, I would probably say that the election process here in Singapore is very, very organized. I would say that this is one of the most, if not the most organized that I have covered here in Singapore.
I lived there in Singapore for over 22 years. I voted several times in 2004, 2007, 2010, 13, and 16. And it is a very vibrant and active Filipino community. But I noticed that during those years that I was there were not a whole lot of Filipinos who were really interested to cast their vote at the Philippine Embassy. Is there more... Is there more information now for them to hold on to, that they should really vote, that this is a very important election, that they should be part of and participate in, June?
Yes, definitely. I think as compared to the previous years, as early as on the third week of voting here, it has already surpassed the number of, or the voters turnout as compared to the past few years. In 2016, it was about 47 or 48%, while in 2019, it was about 32 or 33%. But this year, as early as on the third week of this overseas voting, it has already almost surpassed the voters' turnout as compared to the past 2 years. When I was actually talking to one of the officials, she actually attributed this to really a very massive campaign when it comes to overseas voting, including, of course, us in social media and, of course, the mainstream media here in Singapore. We've been trying to inform everyone else about this overseas voting. This is one thing that I've actually been asking the officials, because based on my experience with the registration, a lot of people were going to the embassy only on the last few days. In fact, on the last day of registration, we even had it until probably about 6 or 7 in the evening, and there was a lot of people having registered on that day. And this is one of the things that I was really frightened of, because we knew that we have almost about 84,000 of registered voters here, and we don't want these people to come on the last week or last few days of the elections. So it was very, we were very happy that the results really came, like people coming to the embassy as early as on the first and on the second week of this overseas voting.
Thank you so much, June, for that update from Singapore. June Rigunan, host and senior correspondent of Rated J. And we continue to monitor the developments across the country now that the polling precincts have officially opened. And you can count on CNN Philippines for live in-depth coverage of this year's general elections. Stay with us for news you can trust, right here on CNN Philippines.
in so-called isolation facilities for now. The pilots are doing their best to spot each and every resident. Kung makita ninyo sa aking paligid ay hindi pa rin humuhupa yung baha. Umabot yung level ng baha dito sa bubungang ito. Nagpapatuyo rin sila ng kanilang mga gamit. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
morning and welcome to a CNN Philippines special, the Filipino Votes. I'm Ria Tanwat Cotrillo. Throughout the day, we'll give you news and information you need to know as Filipino voters. We'll keep a close watch on the progress of today's vote and we'll bring you the results as we get them. Pasig City is the 8th most vote-rich city in the country with over 457,000 registered voters. The city saw a historic election in 2019 when it ended a decades-long political dynasty with the victory of Mayor Vico Soto, who is again running for re-election against his vice mayor. Let's get an update from Amor Santos, who reports to us live from Pasig. Amor, good morning.
Hi, Ria. Good morning. But it's not a good morning for many voters here at the Pasig Elementary School as the polling place opened 15 minutes late. We spoke to some of them. They have been here. Some of them have been here since 5 in the morning expecting to cast their votes early, including many senior citizens. One of them, 56-year-old Bernardo de la Cruz, said he walked for almost an hour coming here. He said he was very excited. He wanted to do his morning exercise first before going to the precinct, but he had to wait before entering the polling place. 61-year-old Robert Licerio and his wife also arrived an hour early and were dismayed by the delay. Around 6 a.m., some voters were already restless, unruly, complaining, and some were even shouting. We heard them saying, quote, "Late na ang Pasig, anong klaseng sistema to, sablay, sablay." Guards explained they had not received the go signal to open and that they were still waiting for poll watchers. Poll workers inside precincts told us they had to wait for the watchers to open the vote counting machines and other election paraphernalia. Voters were allowed to enter at 6:15 in the morning, but by that time, the crowd had already swelled. Of course, upon entering the polling place, they had to do a bit more waiting because they had to stay in holding rooms kasi doon sa mga loob ng precinct ay 10 people at a time lang yung pwedeng bumoto. Ria?
Amor, how about the local candidates? When and where are we expecting them to vote?
Well, we are expecting re-electionist Mayor Vico Soto to vote in the afternoon at Valle Verde 5, while his opponent, Vice Mayor Io Bernardo, is expected here at the Pasig Elementary School this morning. Back to you.
All right, that was our Amor Santos reporting to us live from Pasig City. Up to 65.8 million registered voters are expected to troop to public schools and other voting centers today. What do they need to bring? What should they wear? Our Melissa Lopez tells us the do's and don'ts this election day.
The Commission on Elections says preparations to vote on May 9th start at home. Commissioners say voters should do their research early and make a list of chosen candidates to speed up the voting process. Although smartphones are allowed inside the precinct, it's best to write down the names of candidates on a piece of paper. Sample ballots are also allowed. If possible, you should visit the COMELEC's Precinct Finder page to know where you are voting. You should also write down the precinct number. Now, what should you wear? Commissioner George Garcia says any color is accepted, even those identified with the campaigns. But do not wear shirts or even masks bearing the names or faces of candidates to the voting center.
Mas maganda po wag na lang pong magsusuot ng ganon. Pero yung kulay, it doesn't really matter. Basta dapat may damit, kaysa naman yung walang damit, sure, hindi makakapasok. Bawal na po ang pangangampanya sa Mayo 9. Simula po nga ng Mayo 8, bawal na po ang campaigning.
You may head to the precinct anytime from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. You should also wear a face mask. An ID is not required, but the poll buddy says it's good to have one ready in case someone questions your identity. At the precinct, make sure to use the COMELEC's official marking pen when shading the ballot. Do not use a regular pen as its pointy edge might pierce through the ballot and invalidate your vote. COMELEC's stern reminder: do not take photos or selfies with your ballot and of the voter's receipt. Pack some patience as lines could be long. Precincts can only accommodate up to 10 voters at a time for social distancing.
Sa amin pong estima, kapag po kayo ay may dala po kayong kodigo, Mga 3 to 5 minutes lang po tapos kayo sa pagboto. Mas maganda po mapadali natin din yung pagboto natin at mapadali rin yung pag-alis natin sa polling place dahil nga sa banta ng COVID-19.
Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
And we have breaking news for you at this hour. As you can see right now on your screens, Senator Panfilo Lacson has already cast his vote in the province of Cavite, particularly at the Bayang Luma 1 Elementary School in Imos, Cavite. As you can see, Senator Panfilo Lacson is 73 years old. He's a senator and a former PNP chief. And his platform and policy during this whole electoral process is for public officials not covered by the bank secrecy, full automation of customs operations, and his personal credo as a lawmaker is ang tama, ipaglaban, ang mali, labanan. And of course, over the past few days during his meeting, the Avance, Senator Panfilo Lacson said that whatever happens during these elections, if he is not voted into office as the next president of this republic, he will live a life as he will live a simple life with his family and retire from politics. So as you can see right now, earlier, Senator Panfilo Lacson casting his vote at the Bayang Luma 1 Elementary School in Imos, Cavite. So how is the international political arena assessing our elections this year? Joining us now live via Zoom is Peter Mumford from Singapore. He's a Southeast and Southeast Asia practice head of the Eurasia Group, a leading global political risk research and consulting company. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. So tell us, how closely are foreign investors watching this Philippine elections?
Good morning, Rico, and thanks for having me on. I would say foreign investors, of course, are watching this election very closely. Having said that, there is an assumption in the markets, I think, of a certain outcome, given Bongbong Marcos's sort of long poll lead, large poll lead. But of course, there's an element of uncertainty there as well.
And share with us, what policies and economic reforms are foreign investors looking for in the new president and the new Congress?
Well, I think if you look at the last two administrations, there has been a sort of positive trajectory of economic reform. Certainly several encouraging reforms were introduced under the Aquino administration. And despite a lot of noise, the current administration has actually continued with that positive trajectory of economic reform, certainly if you look at tax and FDI and issues such as that. So I think what foreign investors will be looking for is signs that the next administration, whether it's under Bongbong Marcos or Vice President Leni Robredo, this are the two most likely, will continue to push ahead with economic reforms. And I think markets are somewhat encouraged by the fact that really all the candidates in the Philippines are broadly pro-FDI. There isn't sort of a nightmare scenario in these elections where there's a candidate that offers a very starkly different outlook for sort of economic policy issues.
And of course, we've seen during the Duterte administration over the last several months, amendments to the Foreign Investments Act. You also have the Public Services Act and the Retail Trade Liberalization Law. Do you think that if properly put into place and enacted, this will attract more foreign investments into the country?
Yes, I think so. I think these are some of the positive reforms I was just alluding to that the current administration has moved forward with. I think the challenge, though, is that really for the Philippines, and I think in terms of one of the key objectives for the next administration will be the long-standing issue of the weakness of the manufacturing sector and how to bolster FDI into the manufacturing sector, where really there are no FDI restrictions. It's about increasing the Philippines' competitiveness, and that comes back to issues such as infrastructure in particular. So I think, that will be a key priority for the next administration going forward, and I think foreign investors will want to see that there is more progress on that. because I think transforming the Philippines infrastructure will do more than tweaking any law in terms of bolstering foreign investment.
We've seen these amendments to these key investment laws and economic reforms during the Duterte administration. What about for foreign investors in terms of the ease of doing business? Do they see it as a major challenge of still setting up a business here in the Philippines, or are they already happy with what they have seen?
I think, yes, there are definitely concerns about issues such as governance and transparency. Those, to some extent, some would argue they have got worse in recent years. And the outlook, from this election, I think is varied depending on the candidates. The current administration has put a lot of emphasis on the sort of stripping down the red tape, trying to make it easier. We've seen some modest progress, but this remains very, very challenging. So I think as we're talking, in addition to the FDI law changes, which are very helpful and are very encouraging, to really bolster FDI into the Philippines. And of course, the Philippines is lagging some of its regional peers in terms of how much FDI it gets. It will be issues such as improving the business environment, the governance framework, and again, as I was saying, bolstering infrastructure as well.
All right, transparency, governance, the bureaucracy, still major issues for a lot of investors. For the investors that you've been talking to here in the country, is corruption for them a major problem?
Yes. Corruption is definitely a problem and a concern. I would stress that if you are a foreign investor in most of ASEAN, corruption and governance risks are there. And so if you're choosing to invest in the Philippines versus some of the other countries in the region, corruption is a risk you're going to have to deal with in either of those markets. And so the challenge really for the Philippines is that arguably it hasn't seen the improvements in the area of corruption and governance that you've seen in some of the other countries in the region.
So when you say other countries, for example, in Southeast Asia, where would the Philippines be in the pecking order in terms of priorities of investments?
So I think if you look at, it depends on the sector. So if you look at the manufacturing sector, I do not think the Philippines ranks that highly as a priority in terms of when multinational companies are looking to at where in Southeast Asia they might want to invest. Of course, Vietnam, as everyone knows, is the darling for foreign investment at the moment and for supply chain issues. Indonesia has made a lot of progress in terms of attracting more FDI. And of course, Thailand is very competitive in some areas in supply chains, Malaysia further up. So, as I was saying earlier, I think the manufacturing sector remains a weakness for the Philippines. It's very strong in the service sector. That's been a big driver of growth in the Philippines. And there has been some progress, I think, in the manufacturing space in the Philippines, including in areas such as automobiles. But really, it would be good to see, further progress in that area because, of course, the manufacturing sector can help create a lot of jobs and a lot of good jobs locally in the Philippines.
Peter Mumford from the Eurasia Group, joining us live from Singapore. Thank you so much for your insights. And we have this news just in. Presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos is set to cast his vote in Ilocos Norte. We're showing you images right now. He is about to enter Precinct 36A at the Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School, Pasig City, Ilocos Norte. He is about to cast his vote together with his family. Bongbong Marcos is 64 years old. He is from the Partido Federal ng Pilipinas. He's a former senator. And as he has mentioned during his campaign speeches, he's fighting rebellion, drug war focused on prevention, education, and rehabilitation. As you can see, there's a large scrum of media right outside the Precinct 36A of the Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School in Pasig City, Ilocos Norte, where the former Senator Bongbong Marcos is currently about to vote. As we all know, Bongbong Marcos was born in September 13, 1957. He's also known by his initials BBM. He is a Filipino politician who served as a senator from 2010 to 2016. He is the son of the former president and dictator Ferdinand Marcos and former First Lady Imelda Marcos. In 1980, Ferdinand Marcos, Bongbong Marcos, became the vice governor of Ilocos Norte after running unopposed under the Kilusam Bagong Lipunan Party banner. He then became the governor of Ilocos Norte from 1983 until he was exiled in 1986 in Hawaii in February of 1986. And after his father's death, Ferdinand Marcos, the former President Corazon Aquino, let the remaining members of the Marcos family, including Bongbong, return to the Philippines to face various charges. Right now, we're seeing two screens right now on your TV sets. One at the top left-hand corner is Senator Panfilo Lacson speaking to the media after he cast his vote at the Bayang Luma 1 Elementary School in Imus, Cavite. And right now, one camera is peering through a window inside the Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School in Batang City, Ilocos Norte, where at any moment now, the former Senator Bongbong Marcos will be casting his vote. And while we're awaiting for Bongbong Marcos to cast his vote, let's listen in now to this press conference being held right now by Senator Panfilo Lacson. Let's listen in.
May we always stay that way, ano? And this is sincere,
Yung sa tweet mo, sir, sabi mo, buried na yung mga animosity.
Yeah, yun dapat mawala na, mailibing na sa limot at sabay noong mga memories ng kampanya, yung animosity, bitterness, lahat ng mga vicious attacks from supporters, that is, sana mawala na yun kasi tapos na naman yung campaign period. It's quite understandable na during the campaign, may mga lalabas na alam mo na parang sabihin nating statements against any or some of the candidates. But that's normal. Now that it is over, sana kalimutan ng lahat yon. After today, let's be one nation, one people again.
Sir, saan po kayo mag-monitor ng result po ng election?
Ako? The whole day today? Nanonood ako Netflix.
Relax ka, sir. Sir, anong plano nyo after po nitong kampanya, tapos na rin yung botohan?
Moving forward,
Yes po.
kung sakaling iba yung maging resulta,
Yes.
na dalawa lang pupuntahan Either I go to Malacanang or I go home. If I go home, sabi ko nga kahapon, although may konting biro, pero totoo rin yun, I want to regain my vanity. Matagal na wala, 90 days tayong pinahirapan, di ba? Na napabayaan natin yung, pati yung exercise, workouts. Wala, hindi na ako nakapag-treadmill Siguro, binibilang ko yung treadmill regimen ko o treadmill exercises ko for the past 90 days. Parang 3 o 4 na beses lang yata. Kaya yun. Tapos hindi makakain during campaigns dahil takot kang kumain na marami for some reason. Takot ka uminom na maraming tubig for some reason. Yung ganon. At least ngayon, full blast. Kahapon, sinimulan ko na nga Sarap ng kain ko. Nagpa-prito ako ng dalag.
Farming, sir.
Yeah, farming. That's something that I will do. No? Kung sakaling walang higher calling in the next 6 years, I'll go back to my small farm in Silang. No? Magtanim uli ng mga vegetables para meron akong papadala sa inyo.
Yes. Sir, definitely na yung last mo sa politics.
Sinabi ko na yan, definitely. Definite na yon.
Sir, bakit kayo parang very relaxed lang kayo kung ibang mga very anxious?
There's no substitute to a clear conscience. We run this campaign and as honestly and with yung inangat namin yung level ng discourse And for that, we're thankful that we were able to maintain what we have started. Hindi kami nag-deviate regardless of the consequences na well, sabi ko nga kanina sa inyo, di ba, may mga heartaches din, pero walang ill feelings. Dahil sabi ko, after today, lahat burado na. Para bang start from zero, no? Start from the parang starting line on what is ahead. No?
Sir, are you not interested to know your number, sir? Later today, kasi syempre after 7
Yeah, of course, everybody's interested. Everybody's interested. And matagal ko nang pinagandaan to accept whatever fate. Ano? Kung manalo, di serve for another 6 years and serve well. Kasi naman lagi ang lagi ang attitude ko sa public service, do your best. Wala yung haphazard or half-hearted pagdating sa mga trabaho. But of course, yun, during the campaign, marami tayong mga na-experience na hindi rin maganda. No? Even from some members of the media na medyo hindi maganda mga experiences. But I'm sorry, if I minsan nagkakaroon din tayo ng konting problema, di ba? It cannot be denied. Hindi rin natin ma-avoid yun, di ba? Dahil maski kayo, nasa fourth state, you're supposed to be objective. But wala naman tao talagang objective eh. Walang taong walang inclination, walang taong walang personal choices, di ba? And we should respect each other's choice, each other's
Right, that
opinion.
was Senator Panfilo Lacson speaking to the media at the Bayang Luma 1 Elementary School in Imus, Cavite. And now we're seeing the former Senator Bongbong Marcos casting his vote at Precinct 36A at the Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School in Batac City, Ilocos Norte, together with some of his family members. As we all know, in 2016, Marcos ran for Vice President and he lost that vice presidential race to Vice President Leni Robredo with a difference of 263,000 votes or 0.64% difference. Marcos then filed an electoral protest at the Presidential Electoral Tribunal. However, it was unanimously dismissed after the pilot recount of the chosen provinces of Negros and Camarines Sur, which resulted in Robredo widening her lead even more by 15,000 additional votes. There you are right now seeing pictures of the former Senator Bongbong Marcos, who is running for president under the Partido Federal ng Pilipinas, filling up his ballot for president, vice president, for the congressman of his district, the mayor and vice mayor, councilors, and other positions in the province. NSP spoke earlier to our CNN Philippines reporter. He may go back to Manila, to his headquarters in Mandaluyong, to monitor the election day developments after he votes from Batac City, Ilocos Norte. We continue to monitor the former Senator Bongbong Marcos as he casts his vote in Batac City, Ilocos Norte.
That's
Rhea,
right.
over now to you.
That's right, Rico. For now, let's head on over to Ormoc City in Leyte, where current Mayor Richard Gomez and former COMELEC Commissioner Goyo Larrazabal are battling for a spot in Congress. Ormoc City-based correspondent Bridget Dejon joins us live on the phone for the latest. Bridget, what can you tell us?
Hi, good morning. So as of 6:40 a.m. today, volunteers at Congon Elementary School are getting ready for the election, or the 2022 election. Thousands of voters are expected to arrive in the area, including candidates like Ondo Codilla, who is running for Ormoc City Mayor, and Goyo Larrazabal, who is running for as 4th District Representative. Meanwhile, Ormoc City Mayor Richard Gomez and his wife, Congresswoman Gomez, will vote in the afternoon at Canajing Elementary School in Ormoc.
All right. Bridget, do we know what time the local candidates will be voting?
They said they will be expected to arrive around 2 or 1 to 2 this afternoon.
Right now, polls have been open there for about an hour and a half now. How has it been going? Have there been any problems or any complaints so far?
As of the moment, there have been no complaints at all or so far during the 2022 elections here in Cogon Elementary School. But most of the people are, like the others, they are still queuing for them to vote for their selected candidates.
All right, thank you very much for that to our Ormoc City-based correspondent, Bridget De John. They're reporting it to us live.
All right, we will return now to former Senator Bongbong Marcos, who is running for president. As you can see, he has just stood up from his chair as he now fulfills his vote for the 2022 elections. He has just finished filling up his ballot. And he's now waiting in line to put his ballot inside the server for it to be counted. As you can see at the moment, just to give you an exact location where former Senator Bongbong Marcos is located, he is at the Precinct 36A of the Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School in Batac, Ilocos Norte. And now, while we're awaiting for Bongbong Marcos to basically deliver his ballot to the server, let's cross over now to Paulo for some social media comments. Paulo.
All right, thanks Rico. On social media, we asked you, ano ang gusto mong maging prioridad ng susunod na administrasyon? Let's see your answers. Let's start off with Instagram. Over here, we've got Sina Zanko says, recovery from the pandemic and recovery for our economy as well. Also on Instagram, we've got Abyss Scribbler, who says agriculture and social media services. I'm going to be moving on to tweets. We've got Abigs over here, who says job and food security ng bansa. It's a need to prioritize job security. She notes that these problems are old issues and that the pandemic made them even worse. Sana matuunan naman daw ang mga problema ng ekonomiya at mga manggagawa. We've got this one over here, this time from Twitter. We've got Ken's Cracker, who wants education, internet, electricity, and build projects on the table. We're gonna go back now to Facebook, I believe. Ken Dominic Arceo wants a full disclosure bill or law kung seryoso raw silang ayusin ang korupsyon and the various issues related to that. Dapat maipasa yon. And Sharon Atienza over here on Facebook says she wants labor, health, and education on top of that list.
Thank you so much, Paulo. Thank you very much. A lot of comments from our social media pages. We continue to monitor former Senator Bongbong Marcos, who is running for president, as he votes in his hometown in Batac City, Ilocos Norte. And as they say, there is what you call a solid north for the Marcoses. The Ilocos region is Region 1, and there are currently 3,546,764 registered voters in the Ilocos region of Region 1. And currently, you have Mr. Marcos voting at Precinct 36A, Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School. He's waiting for his turn. He's waiting for his turn. He is currently waiting for his ballot to be placed into the server. It looks like at the moment there is a bit of a delay as we await for the former senator to cast his ballot for president, vice president, and congressman, and for the senators, and for the Senate seats and local positions in Ilocos Norte. There you go. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos putting his ballot into the machine. Just entered the machine. And he will get a confirmation receipt. If his ballot has been cast and has been counted. There you go. All of media watching the former senator cast his vote in Batak, Ilocos.
Sir.
He's checking the receipt.
Would you like to show us, sir?
To see if all the candidates that he voted for are on that document. And now the indelible ink is put on his finger. And now the media is asking and throwing questions at him to get some feedback. You can hear scores of followers outside the school chanting his name. Camera is trying to reposition itself to get a comment from the former senator and presidential candidate as he exits the Mariano Marcos Memorial Elementary School in Batak. As you can see, his son, Sandro, is currently awaiting his father's exit from Precinct 36A. Bongbong Marcos' running mate is Sara Duterte, and she is voting in Davao City. Bongbong Marcos is 64 years old, and his parents are the late former President Ferdinand Marcos and the former First Lady Imelda Romualdez Marcos. In 2016, Mr. Marcos ran for Vice President and lost to Vice President Leni Robredo by a very slim margin of 263,000 votes.
Victory sign, sir. Yun. Victory. Sir, victory.
The media is currently waiting if he will issue a statement. The media is calling him out. Bongbong was born in September 13, 1957, also known by his initials as BBM. And as we've been seeing in the latest surveys, he is currently leading his closest rival, Vice President Leni Robredo. Bongbong ran and was elected governor of Ilocos Norte in 1998. He was also elected as a representative of the 2nd District of Ilocos Norte from 1992 to 1995 and from 2007 to 2010. He is from the Partido Federal ng Pilipinas, a former senator from 2010 to 2016. His platform and policies: to unite the country, fight rebellion, drug war focus on prevention, and he also mentioned during his previous campaign speeches that he will continue the drug war, which was started by
Gaya nung nasabi namin sa Task Force Contra Fake News, magbigay na lang po kami ng details later pag nakuha na po namin yung data.
At pag may natanggap din po kayong report, ano po ang gagawin ninyo doon? Para lang po malaman ating mga kababayan, ano po ang magiging disposition dito ng COMELEC? Ano din po yung dapat na ibigay ng mga magsusumbong? Kailangan ho ba may litrato o may video sila?
Ganito po, para mas maganda, let's discuss that based on COMELEC Rules of Procedure. Una po sa lahat pala, sa Omnibus Election Code, dapat po yung complaint ay verified. So ito po ay under oath. Malinaw po yan sa batas kasi, no? Dapat merong complainant and the complaint should be verified. Upon our receipt, idadakit po namin yan. Nakalagay din po dun sa batas na nireplicate sa COMELEC rules na pag nagsampa ng complaint, isama nyo ng ebidensya. Kung ano man yan, video, photo, recording, isama na rin po yung testimonya ng mga testigo. Para po pag ito ay diniretso sa preliminary investigation, yung po yung investigasyon sa mga complaints, ano, tuloy-tuloy po kasama ng iimbestigahan, kasama ng i-determine yung probative value ng ebidensya at of course makapagdesisyon ng COMELEC kung sasampahan ng kaso, kung may probable cause to file an information for an election offense of vote buying dun sa mga airing na tao.
So, yung mga magsusumbong, paano yung assurance nila na hindi sila dapat po...
Again, ma'am, for... Yeah.
Face mask, sorry sir. So,
Okay, what's
paano po
next?
yung assurance po para hindi matakot yung mga magsusumbong? Yung makakakita po ng vote buying and vote
And
selling.
we've been listening in to COMELEC acting spokesperson John Rex Laudianco in a media briefing, and a lot of questions from the media about fake news and election offenses. And we saw earlier, of course, live from the Pasig City, Ilocos Norte, the former Senator Bongbong Marcos, the